Hello all, this is Michael Elegant and I made this video to tell everyone about our Family Feud experience from beginning to end. So without further ado, here we go. It all started with a casting call that said the Family Feud was coming to Tampa. How do you find out about these casting calls, you ask? Just follow @FamilyFeud on Twitter and they announce all casting calls on their Twitter page. This is the easiest way to find out where they're going to be. Once we found out about the casting call, it was time to assemble a team. They are looking for family members that are naturally funny, live, and upbeat. The quiet one that sits in the corner at all the family gatherings is not going to be the one you want. For our team, I was obviously going to be on it. I'm the oldest of 4 boys in my family, and immediately upon hearing about the casting call, my brother John, the second in age of our 4 boys, was a true believer in the Family Feud dream. He not only said that he was going to be on the team, but I told him the audition was going to take place this upcoming Saturday, and it was already Monday. He bought a plane ticket to fly from Kansas City, Missouri to Tampa, Florida to be there for the audition on Saturday. Immediately after recruiting him, my brother-in-law Jarvis said he was on board as well. So our team was up to 3 people with no other volunteers. Amazing, right? I couldn't understand who would pass up on this opportunity. My wife was about 6 months pregnant at the time. She really did not feel like doing anything, so I eventually had to evoke my husbandly powers and order her to be on the team, and the justification was simply that any winnings would be doubled in the household, so she eventually agreed to go through with it, and with that, our 4th member was Lachelle. For the final spot, I enlisted my mother, who was actually all for it initially, but eventually changed her mind. At that point, I had to evoke my big brother powers and bring in the 3rd out of the 4 brothers, Alex, to be our 5th team member. For the audition, we were required to bring a 6th team member in as an alternate in case something went wrong with one of the primary members. For this, my mother-in-law was happy to step in. Finally, we had our team assembled, and the next step was to make an audition video. Props to my brother Alex for editing the video, and to my parents for appearing in the video. So here's our audition video. It's a shade under 90 seconds long.
Introducing the most interesting family in the world. Meet Alex. This video game design grad student works quietly at his desk by day. By night, all that built up stamina is enough to make the treadmill tired of him. Michael here is an executive assistant. Despite his eating habits, he will never have a heart attack. Why, you ask? His heart is not nearly foolish enough to attack him. This is Lachelle, a school teacher with a spirit so cheerful, she cures narcolepsy by simply entering the room. This is John, a journalist with enough intellect and stamina to count to infinity. Twice. Jarvis is a student and track coach. This fierce competitor has enough energy to travel to Mars in the blink of an eye. That's why the desolate planet contains no signs of life.
Hello, sir. Would you like to take a survey?
We don't always take surveys.
But
when we do, it's to win $20,000 on Family Feud.
So there you have it. The next step was to show up at the audition. We went and there were like 2,000 people there. Furthermore, we heard that there were 3 other casting sessions, so we figured there were about 6,000 people auditioning. Divide that by 6 since they were required to bring 6 members, we figured there was about 1,000 teams. The part of the equation that we could not solve was how many teams they were selecting. So we figured we'd just give it our best shot. Upon entering the casting room, they give you a questionnaire. You have to fill out info about the entire team to include name, relation to the captain, and one interesting fact about each member. We figured that the interesting fact was the most important part because they were looking for interesting people. For me, I was a 10-year Army veteran. John went with being a reporter for the New York Times. Jarvis's interesting fact was that he was studying mortuary affairs. Lachelle went with the fact that she had met Steve Harvey about 10 years ago, and Alex went with the fact that he is a video game designer. With the forms out of the way, it was then time to play a mock round. The instructions for the mock round was to act as hype as possible, and that right or wrong answers did not matter. My team got up to the mock round and there were a little nerves running through me. We played our round and I felt it went well, but we still were not sure what the producers of the show that were observing felt. After the mock round, we were given a pink ticket and told to go sit outside. This was actually by far more crucial moment than we realized at the time. The pink ticket meant that the producers wanted a second round of interviews with the family, but we were sitting outside for about 30 minutes and had actually thought that they were going to call us back and tell us we were not considered. Once they eventually called us back, they broke the news to us that it was part 2 of the interview, and we had to go into a room with executive producer Gabby Johnston and a cameraman. We would have to act excited again and demonstrate our abilities to speak loudly enough for the microphones to pick up clearly. Once this phase of the audition was over, we were told that they would be in contact with us. They never told us if it was mail, phone, or email, so we're a little shaky as to whether they used the quote-unquote "we'll contact you" line to just get rid of us. We left the audition on January 13, 2014 with an okay but very uncertain feeling. Alas, on February 3rd, 2014, I received a postcard dated January 30th, 2014 that congratulated us on being potential contestants on the Family Feud and that we were to be placed in the active file. You see a picture of that on the screen right now. So it took them about 2 weeks to respond to us, which was actually very much quicker than we expected, but still good out of the way. This was obviously a moment of elation for the family because now we knew that the interview went well. The only problem was that, again, they had no contact info for the show and they said to just stand by until they contacted us. At this point, we felt a lot more certain that we were now going to be on the show. We just did not know when, and this did not help to lessen the anxiety any. Fast forward a few months, and on my birthday, June 13, 2014, I received a phone call from a California area code. I answered it, and it was a birthday present from the gods. The show had called and confirmed that we were going to be flown out to Atlanta for a filming of the show. Absolute excitement filled the air as I finally was given an email address of some key members of the staff to keep in touch until we figured out our filming dates. I conferred with the rest of my family, and early August 2014 was a choice that we were given that worked for everyone, so it was time to head to Atlanta for filming. On August 11, 2014 to August 13, 2014 were our filming dates. Again, we had a lot of waiting till August came, but finally August 11th was here, and it seemed to take about 10 years from when I got the call on my birthday to get here. But the past did not matter because the Elgon family was in Atlanta and ready to film the feud. We were given hotel rooms at the Omni Atlanta, and these were some really nice accommodations. The first day that we arrived, we were just to call the producers to check in and be prepared for the shuttle to come get us to the studio at 8 a.m. in the following morning. 8 a.m. the next morning finally came, and the excitement was so intense that I woke up around 6:30 to get dressed and get ready. We made it down for the shuttle around 7:45 to take this picture with the entire team except for my brother John. It took an extra long time to get ready. We made it to the studio, and the first thing was that everyone had to turn in their cell phones into a locked box, as photos and recording while on set would not be allowed. There were some bagels and donuts for breakfast provided by the show. Once everyone got a little bit of food, we sat down for a briefing. The staff briefed us on the fact that they purposely overbooked the number of families that they were going to film. Just in case something happened to any of the families that would not allow them to be on the show, they had to have enough families for the show to go on. With that said, everyone was going to play a mock round, and the families that were the most hyped would be the ones that would actually be on the show. Once we were done with the briefing, we walked out to where the audience sits during filming, and the feeling of being on the set was a bit surreal. The mock rounds were hosted by Ruben Irvin, a guy that stands about 5'2" in stature, but just a ball of energy and hilarity. My family and I felt great being up there when it was eventually our turn for the mock round, and we had lots of fun with it. Even though it wasn't the real show, the nerves were still very real. We felt as though our mock round went well, and just like all the other families, we anxiously awaited back in the audience to see which families they were going to call up first. The moment finally came, and they called the first family that would get their chance to play. Once they called the family and we took our seats in the audience, another family came in through a different stage door. We did not know at the time, but these were the defending champs. They came onto the stage with a certain swag that made us feel like they were more important than us for some reason. Once the Family Feud cast announced that they were the returning champs is when we knew where all that swag was coming from. It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the first taping of the day was finally about to begin. Once the Family Feud theme song came on for the first time, and Steve Harvey made his way onto the stage for the first time of the day, the atmosphere was electric. We were sitting in the audience a bit jealous of the families on stage because since the overbooking revelation was made, all remaining families were in the dark as to whether or not they would make it on stage. Once the first show was over, excitement was in the air again for the remaining families as it was time to call the next family onto the stage. Once again, we were not selected, so the disappointment was still there. After the filming of the second show for the day, all remaining families were taken back to the green room, so we no longer had to sit in the audience. They had brought us some Subway sandwiches platters for lunch, so we sat around the green room eating and chatting with the other families. My wife had brought some Uno cards, so our family got comfortable and played some Uno to pass the time. By the time the third episode had begun, all the remaining families had noticed a trend. There was always a white family against a black family. At this point, all the black families were cheering for the white families to win, and all of the white families were cheering for the black families to win. My brother Alex had said that the Family Feud had found a way to cure race relations, as we had never seen this many people cheer for the opposite race to win at anything. The second and third tapings were both won by the same black family, so we quickly saw hope of an appearance fading away. As they filmed the fourth episode, we were hoping for the white family to win because even if we did not get our shot to be on the show today, they did say that there was a chance we could be flown back out to Atlanta for a different day to appear again. Even though that possibility existed, it was not what we wanted because the anxiety and waiting to get to the show for the first time was almost too much to bear, and we definitely did not want to go through that again. As the fourth episode of the day was winding down, the white family, the Reichs, were actually looking like they were going to win. We were excited because it gave another black family a shot at it, and we were one of the 3 black families waiting in the green room. The only problem with the 3 families that were waiting was that the head of one of the families was a retired Marine, and he came dressed up in his Marine Class A uniform. We just knew that the show producers would be drawn to that, so we figured that they would be the next black family whenever the next black family was needed. Alas, episode 4 was winding down, and the Wrights family had won. My family continued to play Uno as I had taken my jacket, my tie, and my shoes off and had my feet propped up on a chair. One of the producers named Bryce came into the green room to call the next family, and my family and I all thought the same, that the Marine family was to be next. Much to our surprise, though, Bryce yelled, "Elegant family, you're up!" Talk about the biggest moment of elation of our lives. We scrambled to get back dressed as all the males in my family had to put back on their shoes, ties, and jackets. We got dressed and were ready to go for the 5th and final episode of the day. Bryce spent a few moments giving us his pep talk to try to ease our nerves, and he was remarkably effective with his speech. He just reminded us to focus on the actual game and not on the cameras, and we should do all right. He also reordered us into the order that the producers wanted us to stand behind the podium. He placed my brother John first, then it went Jarvis, myself, Lachelle, and Alex. One thing you probably noticed is that they like to put the most intriguing member of the family first, and my brother does have a beaming personality, and they were smitten by the fact that he is a reporter for the New York Times. Once we were lined up, we waited for about 10 minutes and Steve Harvey to do his wardrobe change and come out for the next episode. As exciting as it was to hear the Family Feud theme song blaring when we were sitting in the audience, that moment absolutely paled in comparison to hearing the song play and watching Steve Harvey come out while we were on stage as he was about to host our episode. It was exhilarating to say the least. Steve came out and did his usual walk downs to let the family introduce themselves on TV. Now mind you, even though each episode is only about 22 minutes long on TV, it took a little over an hour to film each episode because Steve Harvey is absolutely hilarious. During the actual show, he has so many funny interactions with the contestants that make the experience just totally awesome. And at each commercial break, Steve does a question and answer segment that is like a stand-up comedy special at each break. I do not know where he comes up with this stuff, but he is more of a comedic genius in person than I had ever imagined, and I absolutely do not envy the job of whoever has to edit the material down to get it to fit into a 30-minute show for airing. As far as the actual show went, the moment I really took control of my nerves was after the first time I went up to the buzzer. I'm a video game player, so I know that hitting the buzzer first was going to be easy for me. I just was not sure if I was going to be able to get the number 1 answer or not. As fate would have it, I got the number 3 answer, and Raphael of the Reichs family managed to get the number 1 answer on our first face-off. I was the 3rd member of the family to get to the podium, and we still had not won a face-off. On the bright side, the time in the huddle with the family was actually kind of fun and bonding as we decided on the best answer to come up with. We actually ended up making all 3 steals successfully that we had the opportunity to go for in the first game, and my brother even threw in some awesome ad-libs that we didn't even discuss in the huddle when he was giving the answers. My wife actually won the 4th face-off, and that was the only one we won during that whole first game. Aside from being born, I'd have to say that finding out we won the game was the greatest moment of my life up to that point. John and I were the ones that we decided would do fast money to try to win the $20,000. Yet another wave of nervousness hit me as I was taken backstage to prepare for fast money. At this point, I got a pep talk from the executive producer that we had met back in Tampa, Gabby Johnston. She let me know that fast money was the easiest part of the game because the number 1 answers were the most popular answers, so don't overthink the questions and we should do just fine and walk out with $20,000 richer. They then placed some headphones on me so that I would not hear the answers my brother was giving, and to this day I remember the song playing in the headphones as clear as ever. It was Hey Jealousy by the Gin Blossoms. After what seemed like waiting for an eternity, one of the stagehands came and grabbed me from backstage and said that I was up. I've been to war in Iraq and I have never been this nervous as I had been walking out on stage with Steve standing there and my family and the audience cheering me on. Steve announced that John had gotten exactly 100 points, so I'd have to get the other 100 points to win the fast money. Once Steve started asking questions, for some reason my nerves automatically calmed down, and doing the fast money was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be. I won't go into details of all the answers, but if you have seen the episode, you will know that it came down to the wire for us in the fast money. The feeling of winning the game as the greatest moment of my life was now replaced by the feeling of winning $20,000. We celebrated and partied on stage as we had accomplished what we set out to do 8 months ago in Tampa when we showed up for the audition. This was the most fun we have ever had, and the feeling of accomplishments to win the money made it all that much sweeter. Since this was the final episode of the day, we were placed on a shuttle back to the hotel to celebrate that night. Day 2 was awesome because we did not have to wake up early and be downstairs at 8 o'clock like we did the previous morning. We were now the defending champions, and we were going to be picked up in our own private shuttle at noon since all the newbies had to go through the mock rounds on stage. We were told to walk with as much swag as possible like we owned the place to let everybody know that we were the champs. That too was an awesome feeling, made even more awesome by walking in and seeing Elegan's name in bright letters on the stage on both sides of the podiums. We were ready for day 2 and make an attempt at winning 4 episodes today and taking home the car. I won't give the details here on how the day went. Just know that we had a blast on this day, as well as all in all, the entire Family Feud experience was the most fun I had ever had, and I was totally bummed that it had to end. But we had more excitement to look forward to as they were to air our episodes and we would see ourselves on TV. For us, filming wrapped on August 12, 2014, and we had to head home to play the waiting game some more. They did not know when our episodes would air, so they just had us stand by until they contacted us again. What was even worse than waiting for an air date was the fact that we would not receive our winnings until up to 3 months after the air date. This is standard procedure, I guess, for game shows, so we did not know that, but we had to wait that out as well. We were given all of this information before leaving the studio and also told that we were not allowed to go blasting it on social media, the results of the show, so we had to be pretty tight-lipped about whether we won or not. After a couple of months of waiting, we finally received notice in early February that our episodes would begin airing on February 23rd, 2015. Excitement filled the air as we passed word all over Facebook and Twitter to check us out. We waited out a couple of weeks until February 23rd rolled around, and we finally got to see ourselves on TV. Talk about a surreal feeling. Once again, the Family Feud theme song came on and the excitement was all in the air. They actually aired our episode 30 minutes earlier than they told me it was supposed to air, so I missed recording about the first 3 minutes of the first episode. We watched all of our episodes as they aired in order that week, and finally the Family Feud experience had finally come to an end. An experience that encompassed from January 13, 2014, all the way until we got our winnings in late May 2015. A lot of waiting and excitement along the way, and an experience I would definitely recommend to all families if they have the opportunity to go audition. If you would like to see our episodes, or if you have any questions about the experience, you can contact me at my email address, mike@amusementsociety.com. You see it there on the screen. And that's it. Thank you for watching my Family Feud experience.